So, what's up everyone? This is a demonstration video of the new 6505 mini head. And so I was lucky enough to pick this thing up from Sweetwater, and my sales engineer Andy was very awesome in getting this to me on the first shipment, I believe, that they sent out. So, I placed the order in May, and then they had got pushed back several times, and so needless to say, I was very lucky to get this a little sooner than most people probably would have. So I'm very grateful for that, and so I want to give a shout out to Andy for hooking me up. So not going to be much talking in this video, more or less just showing you channel 1, which is clean, channel 2, which is clean with crunch, and channel 3, which is just a straight up lead channel. So if you're familiar with the 6505, this is basically the same layout. So you got one EQ, you got a bright switch right here, then you have the crunch switch. I'll be using a foot pedal, and then your channel selector right there. I have no pedals in front of this amp. The only pedals I have running are through the effects loop, which are the vintage Echo, the Polera, and then of course a mini Hoff. So basically just time-based modulated delays, that's it, and reverbs. So nothing boosting this amp. So here we go. I'm just going to turn off the mic and we're just going to kick it, and hope you enjoy it. And at this point, I'll engage channel 2. So yeah, I'm just using the delay in the onboard reverb. I haven't really gone into Polera or Mini-Hop, so just my Vintage Echo, TC Electronic Alter Ego Vintage Echo X4, and then just the amp delay here. And so I've had the bright switch off, and we were in channel 2, which is crunch of clean, right? So now we're gonna go straight into channel 3. So I'm gonna leave the delay on because that's just how I play. If you don't like it, you know, go fuck yourself. nuts and bolts of this amp. I believe there really aren't many non-quote-unquote paid presenter videos out there of this amp. It's usually all you know, Tone King types and people who get this amp for free. I paid for this amp, so you know, this is a real person with a real guitar, an Ibanez RG3 XXV Candy Apple Red with the stock pickups, Norton, and I believe the other one is something about air. I don't know. You know, playing through this cabinet, I'm going into a Eminence Patriot Cannabis Rex in a isolation cabinet that's in my closet, right? I'm mic'd up with an SM57 and an MXL R40 ribbon mic, running into channel 1 and 2 of the board on my Behringer, you know, with the XLR cable. And so there's very minimal EQ on the board, no compression, no effects from the board, panned left and right about, you know, like, I don't know, maybe 15%, 30, 20% deviation left and right to give it a fuller effect of the sound. So this is what the amp can sound like in basically what could be considered a studio environment, right? And so with that being said, we're almost at 13 minutes. Probably go to 15 minutes and we'll call it, so I'm going to shut up, and I want to show you my favorite place on this amp, which is actually, I love the gain 1 and 2, but on clean mode, right? So this is clean mode with the bright switch. We'll play around with this bright switch a little bit, right? In and out, right? And we'll play around with the power section, and I'm going to throw some Polara in there to give us the halo effect and the delay. I'm going to play with the onboard reverb, and you tell me what you think, man. This amp can do it. So this amp, it just kind of, I'm going to make more videos probably today. And this is just with the Ibanez using passive pickups and very minimal, user inputs other than just kind of backing off on the guitar volume and, just putting a delay up in the mix and then putting a reverb and using the onboard. I really haven't had to use any of my boost pedals, my EP booster, as you've probably heard from my previous videos. If you've seen them, this is like my favorite pedal. This pedal goes on everything. I don't have it in, it's not on, doesn't need it. This amp can go from really, really bright to, really, really dark. Whereas my orange Jim Root, I love that amp. My orange Jim Root amp is pretty much dark, right? And I have to put pedals in front of it in order to brighten it. But then again, it's part of the Dark Terror series, so what do you expect, right? But with this pedal, I don't have to put anything in front of it. So, maybe I'll make another video and I'll dink around with it later today with the EP in front of it or something along those lines. But right now, as it stands, I don't need it. I was playing with the Archer though. My Archer, and to be honest, I liked it, and so I might play around more with it with the Archer. But as it stands, I don't really need a pedal in front of this amp, so that's what I like. I don't need to have pedals. Just need to have some pedals in my effects loop. So that's like a delay and a reverb. So Digitech, Polera, and TC Electronic Alter Ego. I didn't mess around with the Mini Hoff this round, and we pretty much just went through all 1, 2, and 3 channels. I really like the power amp section and the interaction between that and your, like your post gain and your pre gain. So pre gain, post gain, power amp really add a lot of dimension and character to your sound. And so if you're using this, like I said, in a studio environment, inside an enclosed speaker with multiple microphones, and you have a board to manipulate your EQ frequencies coming in, right? Then you're in luck, because this amp can cover a lot of territory, and for minimal money, $499, the guitar I'm playing on costs more than this amp. It's not going to go, on tour. It's not going to go on a gig. It's not going to go in a box. It's just going to sit here, on top of my Marshall Class 5 head for the entire of its life. It may move once or twice when I rearrange the room, but it's just going to sit right there, and it's going to be perfect. And so, the little tube sensing technology here is pretty awesome. I haven't used the outside, like the ground lift on the XLR. I haven't used the USB, but those things are awesome. Right now, literally, I'm just going out in 5 or 10 watt mode. I believe it's 10 watt. The middle watts, so it's not the low and it's not the high, so it's the middle watts, out directly into my enclosure, my isolation cab that I built myself, using a ribbon mic and an SM57 on the board. So, I'm not paid to do this. I'm not being paid. I'm not asking to be paid, but I'm telling you right now that this is the best amp for the money. As you heard, it can get Fender-esque type tones, in the regular channel 1, which is a little. You can either brighten it up or unbrighten it. You can throw some crunch in front of it, and you can go from that all the way up to heavy metal, like death metal. Seriously, everything that you need is in this amp. That's all you need, 1 amp. And so I really recommend that you get one, and be patient, dude, because like I said, my order got pushed back twice, I think. I ordered it in May, and it's finally here now, towards the end of June. And it's no fault to the company in which I got it from, Sweetwater, because I believe it's just the lead time got pushed because, there's high demand on these amps, and there's probably only a handful. I believe Andy told me they only got like 75 of them on that run. And so I got one of those 75. I don't know what the serial number is on it. Maybe one day I'll open it up and look, but this is probably one of the first couple videos from a real end user, not, a paid advertiser, that will be on YouTube. And I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited about this amp. Since I've got this amp, I've been playing a lot more, and I've been able to actually, because that's the thing with the Marshalls, you don't get a good clean that you can kind of get spacey ambient tone. And with the Fenders, you don't get a good enough metal lead or anything, usable heavy metal tone, typically speaking, without blowing the speakers up and, cranking it up to 20. So, as far as having a bedroom studio amp in an isolation cabinet, this amp covers a lot of territory for that. And as I showed you, without the use of any pedals, like this is just guitar into the amp. and then of course the reverb and delay and the effects loop, which are to be expected. So I don't know, man. I don't want to sit here and ramble and talk in circles, but I just can't speak enough about this amp. And so later on today, I'll make another one. And I just hope that you enjoy this amp. You enjoyed this video. I really, like I said, my favorite place on this amp, besides the heavy shit, is in just the rhythm channel without the crunch engaged. So just like the clean tone of this amp, and throwing in some halo effects, like some Big Sky type sounds on there, and just getting some really ambient, because this amp does that well, and it's warm and it's crisp. You don't really expect to see that tonality out of a heavy metal amp, a high gain amp, right? You usually don't expect to see that. Well, this amp has it. So this amp will take you from there all the way to heavy death metal. And with just a few knobs and learning how to use it, I've really enjoyed my time with it. I've had it for about 5 days now, maybe 4 days. So you guys have a good one, and rate, comment, subscribe.